Willkommen zu meinem allerersten Live-React-Video. Habe ich noch nie gemacht, sowas. Ich bin's, der Deku Daily, beziehungsweise Flo, für die mich schon kennen, von Twitch. Eigentlich streame ich überwiegend und das soll es auch schon gewesen sein dazu. Habe auch einen YouTube-Kanal, könnt ihr gerne drauf gucken, Deku Daily, gleichnamig wie bei Twitch. Und ich war jetzt lange Zeit nicht da. Weder Stream noch YouTube. Und kurz für die Leute, die mich schon kennen, wirklich kurz, nach den 10 Tagen Zwangspause, die ich einlegen musste, bin ich heftig krank geworden. Und das hat fast 5 Wochen gedauert, bis ich da wieder unter den Lebenden war. Und ich lebe wieder, das seht ihr ja, super. Aber wie ihr das vielleicht selbst mal kennt, ich will da auch ehrlich sein, wenn man dann irgendwie fast 1,5 Monate raus ist aus einem Projekt und dann, in meinem Fall war es jedenfalls so, Sorge hat, okay, kriege ich das wieder so gut hin, wie ich es mal gemacht habe, kann ich den Leuten das bieten, was ich schon mal gemacht habe. Und da habe ich einfach ja auch Angst bekommen, dass das eben nicht so laufen könnte. Jetzt bin ich wieder hier mit Kobolde und Katakomben, der neuen Hearthstone-Erweiterung. Ich freue mich riesig auf die Karten, die wir gleich sehen. Ja, das dazu. Ihr werdet nicht in nächster Zeit irgendwie regelmäßig wieder Streams sehen. Es kann sein, dass mal Streams kommen und so weiter. Das werde ich dann früh genug auf meinem Twitch-Kanal ankündigen. Erstmal nicht geplant. Was geplant ist, sind Kartengequassel bzw. Kartendiskussionen im Sinne von, ich werde Kartenbewertungen machen und die auch auf YouTube hochladen. Wann genau das passiert, das werdet ihr dann auf dem Kanal sehen. Ob ich erst warte, bis alle Karten revealed wurden und dann jede einzelne bewerte oder wie ich das mache, das werden wir dann noch sehen, werdet ihr dann auf dem YouTube-Kanal sehen. Ja, wenn es euch gefällt, lasst gerne einen Daumen da oder einen Kommentar, würde mich riesig freuen. Ansonsten vielleicht ein Abo, wenn ihr nochmal was von mir sehen wollt, zum Beispiel die Kartendiskussionen, die kommen. Ich freue mich drauf. Könnt ihr auch gerne mal gucken, wie das beim Frostthron war. Da war es noch sehr spartanisch teilweise, aber es wird ja alles immer ein bisschen besser. Ne? Jetzt sind es noch 20 Sekunden bis zum Reveal-Stream, der die Karten-Reveals einleitet, die dann hoffentlich zum 7. Dezember, 8. Dezember bis zum Release von Kobolde und Katakomben, wahrscheinlich Release ist da, uns jetzt ein paar neue Karten zeigen wird. Ich nehme mal an, vielleicht eine legendäre Waffe, aber jetzt bin ich still, denn 5 Sekunden geht's los und es ist ja ein Live-React und wir hören zu.
Wow, legendary!
Okay.
Hello everyone and welcome.
Finde ich sehr cool, dass Brian Kibler das wieder macht. Er hat das letzte Mal sehr gut gemacht, finde ich.
Reveal stream. I am Brian Kibler and I am joined by Peter Whalen. For those of you who don't know Peter, tell us a little bit about what you do on the Hearthstone team.
Sure. So I'm one of the initial designers on the Hearthstone team. So we work on designing the cards and the flavor for the set before it gets handed off to final design, who does a lot of the balance for the set.
And you were the lead initial designer on Kobolde Katakomben, is that correct?
I was, yeah. So we have somebody who takes the lead on each of the sets, and they work on it both in the very initial phase and then following all of the flavor and working with a lot of the other teams on Hearthstone, like art and sound and community, towards the end of the set as well.
So for Kobolde Katakomben, this is a very different flavor of set than we just came from. You know, we had Knights of the Frozen Throne, we got Death Knights, we've got you know, Arthas and everything going on there, and now we're going underground to explore and find treasure. Can you tell me a little bit of how we got from point A to point B here?
Yeah, for sure. So we tried to do something different every set. We've done dinosaurs and Ungoro, and then we wanted to do something sort of darker and creepy in the Frozen Throne, and then now we wanted to do something a little bit sillier, a little bit of that sort of whimsical Hearthstone spirit.
Dungeons
so
and Dragons.
Let's do the treasure.
Pen and Paper und sowas.
Treasure
Daran
set
erinnert
sounds
mich das
pretty
ein
awesome.
bisschen.
I want to go
Kobolde und
find
Katakomben.
awesome things underground, and then that naturally led to who are cool monsters that we could find underground that would build these elaborate catacombs? And I said kobolds. Kobolds are silly, they're fun.
So speaking of you know, these catacombs and these dungeons, there's a special addition to this set compared to most, which is the Dungeon Run. And we're going to be looking at collectible cards today from the normal set. But before we get there, can you tell us a little bit more about the Dungeon Run?
Cool. Hätte ich nicht gedacht, dass dazu irgendwas gesagt wird.
Yeah, for sure. So the Dungeon Run is a new solo mode for Hearthstone.
Der
You go
Einzelspielermodus.
in,
Der
we
neue.
give you this lowly level 1 deck, and you fight a sequence of increasingly difficult bosses. And as you beat them, you get some awesome treasures to add to your deck. Your deck levels up along with you. And it's it's an entirely different experience every time. When you die, you're out, and you have to start over from the beginning. And if you win, you get to start over again. Maybe it's a different class, maybe it's the same class. And there's 48 different encounters. There's tons and tons and tons of different treasures that you can find. And so every time you play, it's just this different single-player experience.
Yeah, I've actually been debating with myself. I'm like, okay, well, when the set comes out, do I want to just try and build decks with the new cards? Do I want to try and explore all the different stuff in the dungeon run? Is this something that you expect a lot of people will have trouble with, given how cool it seems?
Yeah, it's pretty tough. I think I'm going to do Dungeon Run for sure.
Okay.
I'm pretty excited about that. I think it's going to be
Ich werde wahrscheinlich auch erst ein bisschen Dungeon Run machen. Ich will den Kartenrücken haben, wenn man mit allen Klassen den Dungeon Run schafft.
That we're going to show off and some decks I'm excited to build too.
Well, cool. Before we get into those, can you let us know a little bit about what we're going to be seeing today?
Well, I don't want to spoil any secrets, so we've got some cool stuff. We have one of the cutest cards in the set. I really love it. We've got, well, just for you, we added a dragon to the stream, so we've got a dragon coming up. There's some good stuff. I'm excited.
All right. Well, are we ready to go then?
So ein Schneewatschler vielleicht.
All right. Well, let's see
Cutest
the
card.
first card.
Oh Gott, erste Karte. Okay, neutral.
Feral Gibberer. After this minion attacks a hero, add a copy of it to your hand. Oh God.
This card is incredibly
This is
fun.
like a tribble. Like it just keeps multiplying. Right?
With giant teeth.
Ja, dafür muss er auch einen Zug überleben. Ne?
This is the one you're saying was cute?
This is the one I think is cute. I love this card.
Sehr
I want to make a
cute.
plushie. I think it would be fantastic.
Süße Zähne. Gollum cute, würde ich sagen.
Oh dear.
Oh God.
We have some gameplay of the Gibberer going to town, I think.
Oh man, this basically happened. The first playtest game with this card.
Also die Sounds sind schon nicht schlecht.
I don't even know what that sound it's making is.
It's gibbering.
It's. I'm actually pretty excited to try this with Hobgoblin in Wild.
Yeah, it sounds pretty fun.
You just have unlimited 3/3s for one, essentially.
Oh my
Attacking, getting your opponent, okay.
Oh man, yeah, the first time we played this, it got a little bit
Also
out of
ersten
control, so I
Eindruck ein
had
bisschen.
basically a board full of these and also my handful of them, and I couldn't figure out how to get rid of them.
It's like, no, what have I done to myself?
What have
glaube
I done? My
nicht
hand
so
is just
gut.
gibberers.
Aber sehr
It was
lustig,
pretty
das
fun.
schon.
So
Eine
we kept it.
Meme-Karte.
All right. So how did that design come about? Like, what was the sort of...
Vielleicht übersehe ich auch irgendwas. Vielleicht gibt es auch irgendwas,
So
womit es
this one's
tatsächlich
actually
gut
top
ist.
down. So we had a fantasy that we wanted to capture, and then we put a card into it. And we wanted
Das
this
gilt jetzt für
creature
alles
that
übrigens.
there's
Ne?
all sorts of
Kann
them
man jetzt
in the
nicht über
dungeon,
alles
and
sagen.
you're in the dungeon and you're just getting swarmed by these little creatures. What is that creature that's swarming you? And it says, all right, it's got to have a way to multiply, but we can't make it just multiply all the time too aggressively. So, because we want it to be small and sort of capture that vibe of these little guys that are biting you and crawling all over. So we said, all right, if it attacks the enemy hero, then you can get more of them, and then they multiply very, very fast.
All right, yeah. I mean, as we saw right there. Ooh, and here we see...
Oh yeah, these are some of the early
concept
concepts.
art. Oh, nice.
Yeah, this character's totally unique, so we had to experiment with a whole bunch of different stuff. The
Also
artist
im
was
Bild
awesome.
sah
The
er irgendwie
applies
fast
just
ein
with-
bisschen aus wie ein Fuzzy, fand ich.
It's always really cool
Von
getting a chance
Mario.
to see the process that goes into, not only the cards themselves, but the art behind them. How this guy actually ended up being, as you said, the
Also
most
das sah auch ein bisschen aus wie
adorable card in the
Ori
set,
so
I
ein
guess.
bisschen.
I think it's adorable. I
Also
love
der
this
eine
card.
da, die drei,
Giant
allerdings in sehr hässlich.
He's
Ori.
definitely,
He's unique.
Gremlins. Oder was
he's
auch
a
immer.
character.
Except that you get 14 of them. or
Sehr
Yeah,
whatever.
he's not very unique. There's a lot of that there. They multiply.
Okay, das nehme ich jetzt mal als Meme-Card. Ich glaube
let's-
nicht. Ich glaube nicht, ich weiß es
Yeah,
nicht, aber ich glaube
let's
nicht,
see what
dass
the next
es
one is.
großartig was
All right, card number 2.
erreichen kann. Okay. Schurke.
Whoa. This
Secret.
is a
Schurken?
rogue secret.
Geheimnis?
This is a rogue secret.
Oh, krass.
Interesting. When a minion attacks your hero, instead it attacks one of its neighbors. I get the sudden betrayal part thematically. I like that. So,
It's
Okay.
betrayal.
okay. Well, first of all, rogue secrets. What's up with that?
So we wanted to capture the fantasy for each of the classes in the set. We said, all right, if you're in the dungeon crawl, what do classes do? Well, you have the warriors, and they're these huge armored brutes. You've got mages, and they have powerful spells. And rogues are sneaky. They're tricky. And how do we capture sneaky and tricky in Hearthstone? We said, well, I guess secrets make a lot of sense.
Yeah, a lot of people have actually wondered why rogues sort of weren't one of the secret classes to start with. Like
Sure.
rogues, they're tricky, they're sneaky. It seems like they ought to have secrets. So this makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
It's just interesting what's happening right
Schurkengeheimnisse.
now.
Yeah,
Krass.
sure. So in the beginning,
Okay.
secrets were in Rogue. It was actually one of the original secret classes, but Rogues already had a lot of stuff going on in Classic. They had combo, they had a lot of cool, interesting cards that interacted.
Das ist jetzt natürlich
And some of the
nochmal,
other
was
classes,
kommt,
like
was
Paladin in
das alles
particular,
ein bisschen
they
durcheinander
don't have a special
gewürfelt.
keyword that's just for them. So they shifted secrets into Paladin so that there was a lot more going on. It sort of balanced out the class a little more. And now lots of classes have different stuff going on.
Und Geheimnisse kosten beim Schurken anscheinend dann jetzt immer
Something we
2.
expect to see more of?
Definitely there's going to be more in this expansion, because if there's just one secret, it's pretty
It's
boring.
not very secretive, no.
But
Ja, stimmt.
going forward,
Es
the
muss mehr
plan is to
Secrets
not
geben.
do them, at
Sonst
least
ist ja
not for the
Blödsinn.
next set, and then
Ja,
we'll kind of
Geheimnisse.
figure it out going forward. One of the nice things about having the standard and wild split is that we can keep standard, just 3 classes have secrets. If you're a player that doesn't like to see secrets all the time, then we can keep it restricted. But in wild, there's going to be a lot more stuff going on. It's kind of a crazier place, and rogues will have the ability to do some
Well,
of that
and
stuff.
in standard for now, they'll certainly have secrets as well.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. So I'm pretty excited to see rogue secrets in standard.
Finde ich sehr schön das
Makes more
Artwork,
sense.
wo
Rogues are
er
sneaky, they got
dem
their reasons,
anderen
so-
die Kerze
And
auspustet.
they betray
Sudden
people, I
Betrayal.
guess.
Well, I mean, this is very like
Okay, jetzt sehen wir's mal.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, this.
Ist das
either
jetzt
one of
schwarz
these
dann
betray the
das
other would be
Geheimnis
kind
beim
of a
Schurken?
disaster if you look at it.
I think this is going to end pretty well for our rogue.
Ja, so
This is one of those places where you just don't attack.
violett-schwarz. Das ist schon so ein rauchiges
Look at this
Grau-Schwarz.
You fool! Interesting animation with the rogue.
Aber es sieht
Ja.
cool, sieht cool aus.
That's cool.
I think it's awesome.
Sieht cool aus. Ja, das ist natürlich heftig.
Poor Arthas, betrayed by his own gastropod.
Da kommt es jetzt so ein bisschen drauf an, was wir noch für
Slain by a
Geheimnisse
giant
sehen
Lich
beim
King.
Schurken.
I mean, that's kind of a gastropod's plan.
Das Board sieht auch cool aus. Ich hoffe wieder, dass ein neuer Soundtrack kommt.
That's what you
Nur
aspire
für
to when you're a
Kobolde
gastropod, I
Katakomben.
think. At least as far as I can tell.
Das wäre schön.
Yeah.
So, like you said, there's got to be more secrets in order for the secrets to not to be at all.
Vielleicht gibt es ein
Yeah, that was one of the
Unidentified
important things for
Secret.
that.
Das
So
sind
there's
diese
3 rogue secrets
neuen
in Kobolde
Karten, wie
Katakomben.
wir das beim
And
Priester
we wanted to
gesehen
make
haben.
sure
Wenn
that
man
we played
zieht,
around them
kriegt es einen
differently,
Effekt
so that there was some
zuverlegen von
interesting
4,
gameplay
5
with it.
verschiedenen
One of the other
Effekten.
things we
Das
really
wäre
wanted
natürlich
to capture
interessant
with
bei den
rogue
Geheimnissen,
secrets is
wenn das Geheimnis mehr oder weniger immer anders
At the right
wäre.
moment, these secrets are fantastic.
Vielleicht kommt so
And
eins
you need
noch,
to
weil
take
sonst
advantage
bräuchte
of
halt
that.
der Schurke mindestens
Rogues in
3,
general tend to be
4
tricky,
Geheimnisse
and
jetzt in
very
diesem
much you have
Set.
to-
Und
you
das
have to
wäre die
figure out
Hälfte
the
der
rogue
Klassenkarten, die
secrets
der
play into
Schurke kriegt. Das
That one's
wäre
particularly
ein bisschen
interesting
komisch.
because the opponent needs to play around several things. It's like not only
Also
do I
unidentified,
attack, like what do I attack, but it's how do I
Secret,
position my
also ein
minions before I attack.
unidentifiziertes
Because, for
Geheimnis,
instance, you play a small
wäre eine
minion,
Variante,
doing
dem
that
Ganzen
attack.
zu entgehen. Wir
Yep.
brauchen nur eine
Throws
Karte,
things off entirely.
Yeah,
die
exactly.
Geheimnis
As the rogue, you
ist,
get
und
some
das
ability to
Geheimnis
control
ist
that
immer
too,
ein
right?
bisschen
Which minions do
anders.
you kill? How do you set up
Also
a
könnte
board
man
like
diese
that?
beiden Mechaniken zusammenbringen, ohne dass man 3, 4 verschiedene Geheimnisse
Shall we
braucht für
go
die
on to the
Klasse.
next card then?
Könnte ich
let's
mir
see it.
vorstellen.
Let's see what we got.
Abwarten. Oh, noch
it
ein-
is another
noch ein Geheimnis. Okay.
rogue secret.
Cheat Death.
Death. When a friendly minion dies, return it to your hand. It costs 2 less.
Oh, okay.
So this
Auf den
is-
Sterbenden wird...
Kind of like a getaway Kodo, except more powerful, but it costs 2 mana.
Right, exactly. It's like a getaway shadow step.
Ja, genau, Shadow Step.
Okay, interesting. And there's lots of rogue cards that combine obviously very
Okay,
well. with
dann
Shadow
ist das
Step.
vielleicht doch nicht so,
Like
wie ich mir
playing
das
Shadow
gerade...
Steps.
Right, for sure.
Überlegt
And I
hatte.
mean, you're not playing Silverhand recruits in your rogue deck,
Right.
so you have
Gibt
fewer
es
of
vielleicht
those sort of
tatsächlich noch
misses.
2
Paladin
andere
would have-
Geheimnisse für
Interesting
den
too,
Schurken
because
in dieser...
there's also
Erweiterung.
with both Cheat Death and Shadow Step around.
Interessant.
When you're playing against Shadow Step, you want to kill their minion that you don't want to return to their hand.
Right.
When you're playing against Cheat Death, you want to avoid killing the minion that you don't want to return to their hand.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it can really be kind of a caught between a rock and a hard place kind of thing playing against this
For
and
sure.
Shadow Step as well.
Yep, exactly. One of the things that when we showed rogue secrets to other players for the first time, internally, they said, "Wow, it looks like rogues are just stealing a secret from every other class and then tweaking it a little bit." We have misdirection is sudden betrayal. That's what they stole from hunters, and they stole getaway Kodos, and then
So do
eventually.
they steal... I hope they didn't steal Ice Block.
Well, we'll see what
Actually, I kinda
we'll
do-
see what they borrow from me.
all right. It's not going to be our next card.
It's not gonna be our next
We got
card.
to keep some rogue secrets for the rest of the reveal season. I
Right,
imagine.
exactly.
All right. Well, we do have another card coming up.
We do, and this one's special just for you, Brian.
Is it?
Oh, jetzt kommt der Drache.
Oh,
Jetzt kommt
I
der
see
Drache.
Dragons.
There are some
Dragon army.
dragons.
Oh, it's a priest dragon even. If you're holding a oh wow. If you're holding a dragon, deal 3 damage to all their
Whoa.
minions.
Das
4
ist
cost
aber...
3/3. Oh man.
Aber to all other minions, das ist halt noch das Wichtige. Aber es ist trotzdem super stark.
I'm actually just like, I'm stunned. I'm in shock here because one of the things about dragon decks in Hearthstone right now, you do have very few options at the moment. There was a rotation of a lot of the older dragon cards from Blackrock Mountain and such, and this is a very good defensive tool.
Sieht cool aus, die Karte, finde
ich. The
ich.
dragon decks that exist right now, they're basically just like aggressive decks that have to push in the board because they don't necessarily have great ways to come
Für
back
die, die
and
es
kill
nicht wissen,
dragon
Priester ist
themselves.
meine Lieblingsklasse.
Whereas this, especially when you're able to discover it off of a Netherspite Historian, it's one of the few priest dragons, can give you a lot of powerful early game ability to clear off that board.
Yep, exactly. One of the things we talked about was that Dragon Priest historically had been this very mid-range deck or moving more aggressive that was you would put all these minions on the board and just do a thing. We wanted to move it more towards in more of a controlling space. Give you some more options to play a defensive game with your awesome dragons instead of just trying to get ahead and play that sort of aggressive mid-range thing.
Especially because
Und es ist sogar nur eine seltene Karte, also
the big, cool, impressive dragons.
Right,
you
exactly.
Play the Ysera,
aber eine sehr, sehr starke in meinen
the
Augen.
Deathwings. And if you don't have tools to keep you alive,
3 Schaden aufs ganze Board für 4 Mana, plus ein 3/3er.
You've got all these pirates.
Sure.
I will breathe fire on all of them, or breathe whatever that shadow.
Shadow.
I guess it's a priest dragon.
Yeah, they're all Twilight dragons.
Sure, sounds good. So, but dragons are sort of a very central theme of sort of traditional fantasy of dungeon crawls. Breaking into the dragon's lair, stealing their treasure. You see a lot of that in these images. Are there a significant number of dragons in the set? Please say yes. Please say yes. Please say yes.
There are certainly a bunch of dragon images. There are a handful of dragons period, and then Dragon Matters cards as well.
Okay. That's another Alex Horley piece. I see his signature.
It is, yeah.
I think
it's fantastic.
I have Deathwing Dragon Lord on my wall. I'm going to have to get one of those too. That's sweet.
Yeah, that one's awesome.
Very, very cool. So, are there more Dragon Matters type things going on? Is this something along the lines of what we saw in Blackrock Mountain? Or are there more
not
dragons crawling in dungeons?
Yeah, there are dragons in these dungeons. Priest has a couple of Dragon Matters things. I mean, we saw Duskbreaker. Well, someday over the course of the spoiler season, we might see another thing.
All right, I am pleased already.
And we've got a card named Dragon Soul.
Yes,
it makes dragons.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So
die
yeah,
legendäre Waffe vom
stuff,
Priester.
but not a lot
Gibt ja jede Klasse eine legendäre Waffe mit diesem Set. Sozusagen die Heldenkarte oder die Quest, das Pendant dazu.
We do.
Dieses Mal für jeden eine Waffe.
Have terrible taste,
Und eine kriegt man umsonst. Okay, nächste Karte. Oh, da haben wir eine legendäre Waffe, und zwar vom Schaman.
So this is a legendary weapon.
This is a legendary weapon.
And this is the Shaman weapon, yes?
It is, yes.
After your hero attacks, discover a spell and cast it with random targets.
Yeah.
Okay. This is interesting. It is very difficult for me to wrap my mind around what's going to happen with this card. It's an 8 cost,
Ist das 8 Mana
free
wert?
weapon, so it's not really a particularly efficient weapon for just killing minions.
For sure.
This is a weapon that without the text you'd expect to cost.
Schwer, finde ich. Schwer.
So, what's sort of going on here? What was the thought process? Surrounding legendary weapons.
Ja, das würde mich jetzt auch mal interessieren.
Particularly giving legendary weapons to a lot of the classes that didn't have really weapons before, and then how you got to this for the shaman one.
Sure, yeah. So legendary weapons in general, one of the core fantasies of doing the treasure set is we got to have some awesome treasures. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to have legendary treasures in there basically from day one. And so we've got these weapons, and we needed to put them in all the classes. So we had to figure out how do mages and priests and warlocks handle having weapons, and so we gave them these 0 attack ones. We've seen Alaneth, we've seen Dragon Soul, that are these weapons that advance your game plan in ways that aren't just beating up on minions. For some of the weapon classes, though, we wanted to let them beat up on minions. And so the Shaman fantasy, especially if you look at that traditional dungeon crawling thing, is very much in the space of, I've got a weapon, and I've got a weapon in one hand, I'm casting spells in the other hand. We wanted to capture that in the legendary weapon. And so that's where we are. We looked at the Shaman spells and said, there are actually a lot of untargeted spells that aren't going to hit a random thing. You're going to have a lot of control over it. And they're interesting in sort of different ways. So you can hit things like Devolve or Volcano if your opponent has a big board. You can hit Bloodlust if you've got a big board. Maybe Evolve. So there's a bunch of interesting options there.
Can this hit the spell stones?
This can.
So there's the one that copies your minions. So this could potentially is attacking, because it's a 7 cost spell too, right?
Right, for sure.
Okay.
So there's some pretty good stuff you can get off of this.
Ja, aber da fragt
What
man
I'm
sich
really
auch, warum
hoping
nimmt man
is
die
that the
nicht
Hunter
sofort
legendary
ins Deck
weapon
rein?
is Thunder Fury. 'Cause
Ah,
I played a lot of WoW back in the day, and the fact that Thunder Fury was a hunter weapon was always one of the funniest memes to me. A hunter in my guild got the first part of the binding.
perfect, of course.
Because no one knew what it was yet. It was way back early vanilla.
and then they have to get the second part of the binding. You've
Of
already
course,
got the first one,
it's
so
not like you're gonna get 3.
right, exactly. So I mean,
I'm just really hoping that card's in the set. Don't tell me if it is.
well,
Either way, but I am really excited for the legendary weapons in general. Obviously, Dragon Soul, super cool, and seeing ways that you use the weapon slot to essentially create permanence, more so than a minion, because obviously any minion that's on the board, you can kill it with a spell, you can kill it with a minion. But weapons require a special type of removal, so they have a tendency to allow you to kind of build your deck around them in a different way, to expect them to remain in play a little longer.
yeah, which is really cool. Dragon
Muss
Soul
man
is
halt
pretty cool.
abwarten,
You
ob
put
diese
it out pretty
8
early,
Mana
and
für die
then
Waffe.
every time you
Okay,
get one of
3
these big
Schaden,
turns,
okay,
you cast a bunch
gut.
of spells, you get a dragon.
Ob es dann mit dem
Paladin.
Zaubern, mit dem
Can you get
Discover
one
das
on a turn?
rechtfertigt,
Oh,
einfach die Waffe zu
Oh yeah, if you have a
benutzen
really
im
big
Spiel.
turn, you got 7 dragons at the end of
Mal
that.
gucken.
Now you're speaking my language.
Oh, it's pretty good. You have a dragon army.
I see what you did there. All right. Well, moving along to the next card. Branching
Druide.
Paths. Choose twice. Draw a card. Give your minions +1 attack. Gain 6 armor. So this is a druid card.
It's a druid
They
card.
choose
Twice.
2 of 3. So this is. Can you choose the same thing twice with this?
Yes, you see the same options each time, and you get to
Okay.
pick.
Ah,
So
okay.
this is you get. Oh, I guess we're gonna.
Here we're gonna
here.
see it.
Oh, look at this tremendous
nice.
army.
Oh, they're going to be pretty good.
So eat the mushroom, explore the darkness, or loot the chest are your options here.
All right. We're exploring. Guys are getting a little more powerful.
I might have chosen to.
Oh, if you knew you were getting
What
that.
do you know? So lucky. Now these.
That's
Well played.
I think the appropriate emote there is actually thanks.
seems
But
reasonable.
that's just the emote metagame. And look, exact lethal.
Exact lethal.
That was actually a mistake, though. You're
Emote
supposed to let
metagame.
the tiny fin or
Oh, get the final
penguin
blow?
get the final hit.
That makes sense.
It's pretty important for their self.
Ist natürlich,
I mean,
Makes
es ist ein
they
bisschen
need to
overkostet,
understand that they have an
also
advantage.
kostet ein bisschen zu
When we
viel
did
für
the
das, was es
Aurora
macht,
reveal video, it was
aber
Hunter killing a whole bunch
dadurch,
of
dass
tiny
es
fins.
so
Horrible. And this is the
flexibel
tiny
ist
fin.
einfach, durch das Choose Twice,
So tell me a little bit about
kann
about
interessant
this,
sein, müssen wir
this
abwarten.
general design. You know, obviously, it's kind of going somewhere with the choose mechanic in Druid, but you know, with a little bit more
Wie
flexibility.
funktioniert das mit,
Yeah, exactly. So
mit dem Wählen
choose one is a cool
von
mechanic. It gives you a lot of different options. It's pretty skill testing, and it gives you
Federal
variety in,
Stacker,
like, how your games play
die
out. And so we wanted to
Druiden-Legendärkarte,
play that up.
aber das ist ja
What's
nur
the-
die
what's the leveled up
Choose
version
One
of the choose one
Effekte.
mechanic? And we said, all right, it's going to be choose 2.
Ich glaube,
so
das
we're
wird
going to
nicht
give you 4
funktionieren
options.
mit
You're going to pick 2
Federal
of them,
Stacker.
and that's going to be great. But we found 4 options. They were okay, but it was weird that you didn't get to pick the same one twice, and people weren't sure what was going to happen. So we cut down to just 3 options. And we said, okay, you can pick the same one twice. And that's a lot more opportunities for different choices that you can make. There's a lot of different ways this card can play out. We're pretty excited about it.
So is this sort of a new thing we'll be seeing more of in Druid? Are there more choose twice cards in the set?
There are not more choose twice cards in the set. This is the only one you get to
Okay.
choose between what direction you want to take your adventure.
Also ein
Well, if
einzigartiger
the audience at
Kartentyp
BlizzCon has anything
bis
to say
hierhin.
about it, it is in fact certain death, I believe, is what we're choosing.
I've heard that, yeah. Or lighting on fire.
That was pretty remarkable to hear, like sitting at the BlizzCon stage and just hearing this entire room chanting "Certain death, certain death." They were really excited about it.
That was fantastic. That was a great presentation.
I think
Sprechen
I was
gerade
actually in
auf
the part of
die
the room that died, so I really
BlizzCon-Eröffnungszeremonie
don't
an.
know I'm here today.
wo die Zuschauer wählen konnten, welchen Raum sie kriegen
Crushing
wollen.
walls is
sozusagen.
devastating.
Das war sehr
That-
lustig.
yeah, there's lots of interesting stuff you know that we saw both there with you know the presentation. Is there more sort of cards that will play off of that theme of like you know having to choose the right path in the dungeon kind of thing?
Yeah, there's some of that. The idea that you're in a dungeon and you're exploring, and there's a lot of different opportunities out there, and a lot of different. Sometimes it goes well, and sometimes it goes less well.
And how many times, you know, are we going to see the treasure hoard and the certain death? And what if we choose a treasure hoard? We still don't even know what would have been back there.
That's true. That's true. There was some pretty good stuff out there.
I'll never know.
Well, I mean, eventually you'll see all the cards.
True, but I mean, we won't necessarily know if that was what was behind the door that said treasure hoard.
That's true. That's true. You can ask Ben.
I don't think he'd tell me.
I don't think so either.
Gotta keep it secret.
Gotta keep the secrets.
All right. Well, anyway, we're not gonna keep the next card secret for much longer, though.
That's true.
So let's take a look. Oh.
Oh, was das denn jetzt?
All right.
Oh, this is something going on here.
So
I see a new card.
Oh,
Whoa. Level up. Give your Silverhand recruits +2, +2, and taunt?
And taunt.
So this is basically... Oh my god.
ui.
It's Quartermaster
It is
for a new
Quartermaster.
world.
Yeah, it is Quartermaster. Yeah, that's the appropriate remote.
Yeah.
That is the appropriate remote right there. Level up. Give your Silverhand recruits +2, +2, and taunt. So, obviously...
Coole Karte, gefällt mir gut. Auch das Artwork.
Seen, like the Quartermaster, which you just talked about, as well as like...
Oh, da habe ich schon wieder Bock drauf, damit
they care about the
rumzuexperimentieren.
Silverhand recruits. That's one of the things that Paladin does. This is obviously a pretty comparable thing to the Quartermaster itself, but doesn't have the body.
Ich glaube nicht wirklich, dass die Karte super
Also
gut
just the
werden
level up
könnte.
as a thing is
For sure.
obviously a pretty core element.
Also Stand Against Darkness
the
heißt die, glaube ich,
traditional
eine
fantasy
Karte.
roleplay here.
Yeah,
Für
we
5
definitely
Mana,
wanted to have a card in the
die
set named Level Up.
5
Yeah.
And it's got, I mean, you saw
Rekruten
the animation for it. It's got the
herholt,
sort of traditional
plus
World of
diese
Warcraft
5 Mana,
thing
dann
and
hast du immerhin
the sound.
5 3-3er mit Spott
So
für
we're going to have
10
something
Mana.
leveling up. Makes sense. Silverhand recruits.
Aber
they're
ich
gonna
glaube,
get a little
das
bit
ist
better.
nicht wirklich
And Silverhand
bahnbrechend.
recruits,
Trotzdem eine
in
coole Karte,
Wild
finde ich.
are
Ist
actually
cooler
very
Flavor.
powerful.
Mir gefällt, dass sie da
This is
Rekrutenkarten noch ein paar
something along the
dazu
lines
packen.
of
Das gefällt mir bei
Quartermaster,
Paladin wirklich gut.
That in a lot of matchups will actually be better because you care more about being able to defend yourself against, say, an aggressive deck than you do about just having an additional body on the board.
Yeah, for sure. And you've got Lost in the Jungle, which is great for making Silverhand recruits. You've got the Dry Whisker Jailer, so you're going to have Silverhand recruits in your hand, so you actually get to pick when you play them out. So you have some control over who's leveling up.
Yeah, and I like the fact that the jailer was actually in the hand, and they're just
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
forget I exist. Don't forget I exist.
I'm important too.
when you think about this card, think about
Yeah.
this card too. Haha.
Yeah, exactly. You got Vine Cleaver. Vine Cleaver can make you some Silverhand recruits.
Yeah, definitely a direction that you can take Paladin. We've seen, like I said, in the wild version, that with enough of these buffing effects,
In
that
Wild
can be
mit
very
Master
powerful,
of
and those
Battle
Silverhand
auch.
recruits can get super scary.
Yeah, for sure. And now they've got Taunt, so you can play a little bit more defensively, and it's good against other mid-range or aggressive decks.
But also, if you just have a board full of Silverhand creature like we just saw there, they don't need taunt, 'cause
taunt.
just kind of smashing your opponent in the face.
Yeah, for sure.
Usually, very often when you played Quartermaster, you just played Quartermaster and then your opponent pretty much instantly died.
That's true.
Although, if you have that, what's Duskbringer?
Yeah,
We'll
for
get
sure.
all those off the
Clear
board.
all the Silverhand recruits.
Ja,
Yep.
ja.
That's my dragon breathing sound. It's pretty bad right now because I'm kind of sick. I could do better if I didn't have a cough right now.
All right.
I'd be able to spew fire instead of
Ich weiß nicht, wie viele
Shadow-
Karten wir noch sehen, aber wir haben
Shadow
schon
Breath,
einige
ja,
gesehen,
whatever
also
he's
es
got.
geht ziemlich schnell.
Yep,
Sehr
for sure.
interessante neue, also so
Alright, well,
nicht
I
richtige
think-
Mechaniken neue, aber so
There's 2 more left, maybe?
wird wieder viel experimentiert mit Mechaniken. Das hat mir beim Frostthron schon sehr gut gefallen. Vor allem, ich meine, Schurken haben eine
Pretty well
Geheimniskarte.
timed.
Total cool.
Lesser
Spellstone für Krieger in diesem Fall.
Summon one 5/5 Mithril Golem.
Für 7 Mana und
It's a
5
warrior
5er.
card. It's the warrior spellstone.
Das ist jetzt wieder so ein Spellstone, das sind diese neuen Karten, die man quasi upgraden kann. Das ist immer, wenn wir eine Waffe anlegen, wird für 7 Mana der
The art's
Spellstone
very-
stärker.
it is
Vielleicht
very physical.
2 5/5er für 7 Mana, könnte ich mir jetzt
That's true.
vorstellen,
I could've-
als die nächste
Even if
Stufe.
the rest of it
Das
was
ist gar
done.
nicht so schwer
Hunter
zu erreichen.
weapon,
Noodle
Shaman
that
is some
together,
weapon.
so-
But yeah.
Okay, so the spell.
Und für 7 Mana 2 5/5er ist
These
schon
are a new sort of
in Ordnung.
card type in the set. Is there one for each?
in
one?
Ordnung, sage ich
Yep,
jetzt
there's one
deswegen
each
ganz
class.
vorsichtig.
We saw a couple of them before, revealed at BlizzCon. And these are cards that they upgrade if you hit a
Ach, guck mal, Spellstone gibt es für jede Klasse ein. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Hätte ich jetzt gar nicht gedacht, ehrlich gesagt.
And you have
Cool.
to do this while the card is in your hand,
Yep.
correct? So if this is in your hand and you play a weapon, it upgrades
Yep.
to the next level. And I imagine we probably have the other levels available to us.
Yep.
Ta-da!
Yeah,
So
two.
we'll upgrade 2,
Yeah.
summon 2 Mithril Golems, and then once again, if you play an additional weapon while this is in your hand, it will again upgrade to. I figured that one out.
Yeah.
That's good.
Summon 3 5/5 Mithril Golems. So
It's a pretty good board for 7 mana.
yeah, 7 mana and we see the overall progression
Oh, nice.
of lesser Mithril Spellstone into Mithril Spellstone into greater.
Auch sehr cool gemacht mit dem
Mithril
Artwork.
Spellstone.
Und hier hat man quasi, wenn man
I
den
mean, obviously,
Lesser
the level
Spellstone
one
bekommt
version
in
of
einer
these
Kartenpackung
cards
in
is not
Golden,
terribly
hat man quasi
important.
3
But
neue goldene
if
Karten,
you
wenn man
do
so sehen
level
möchte.
them up even once,
Cool.
2, 5, 5, or 7, that's pretty solid. It's not an immediate impact that necessarily.
Genau, Brian Kibler sagt es gerade. Die mittlere Version mit 2 5-5ern,
Yeah, so some of
das
the
ist
spellstones are in the
okay,
space where their level 1
aber
version is pretty reasonable. We
die
saw Jasper
beste
Spellstone.
Variante, die ist schon echt,
Druid one?
die ist schon sehr, sehr stark.
For 1 mana,
Kann man
which is
schon
like
sagen.
pretty reasonable. And then that levels up to deal 6 damage to a minion at the highest level. This one, yeah, summon 1/5/5.
Oh, das macht mich jetzt,
You know, that's not super special. But
das
summon
ist
3/5/5
cool, macht mich
golems
gespannt, ob die
is-
Spellstones die anderen Klassen
Pretty
auch
awesome.
kriegen.
And frankly,
Schamane kennen
if
wir,
you're playing a control
Druide
style
kennen wir,
warrior
Krieger
deck,
kennen wir. Ich glaube,
you
das
will
war's.
frequently have a number of weapons. Especially, I've been
Wenn
playing
ich
actually a
tue.
lot recently with Forge of Souls.
Oh, okay.
Because Blood Razor is so
cool.
good in
Yeah,
so
for
many of
sure.
the warrior decks that I just want to draw it more often. So I've been playing like a Forge of Souls, a War Axe, and 2 Blood Razors. So I'm always guaranteed that my Forge of Souls gives me a Blood Razor. So if you have this in your opening hand, you might even consider holding on to it if you're playing in a matchup where just generating threats is valuable. If you're playing against another controlling deck, for instance, you know that you'll have the time to get to the late game and upgrade this over time.
Yeah, for sure.
Schon
One
cool,
of the
wenn du so
things
eine
in
Karte in
Duels
der Hand hast,
is
ist
the
ja auch
recruit mechanic. We saw gather your
eine
party,
neue
so the
interessante
warrior
Mechanik.
recruits are unbounded.
Du hältst die
Right.
Karte
So
in
you
der Hand,
wanna
du musst
just
jetzt
have a
abwägen,
small number
okay,
of minions, just
kann ich
giant
demnächst eine
minions.
Waffe
That's a good
equippen
point. Yeah, so this is because this is a spell.
und warte
because
nochmal
of
ab,
this
dass der
recruit.
Spellstone
So
noch
if you're
besser
playing
wird,
Gather
oder
Party,
spiele ich ihn jetzt schon,
you
muss ich ihn
still
vielleicht
have
jetzt schon
this to
spielen?
generate threats in your deck,
Das ist cool.
while
Das ist
still
cool.
just having
Ich
cards
frage
like
mich gerade, wie man
Guide,
damit beim
Sarah,
Mulligan
things that you
Right,
just
exactly.
umgeht.
play early.
Also wenn ich ganz am Anfang
And so you got
überlege, ob
weapons
ich
to
eine
go with
Karte in der
that
Hand
because you
behalte.
want to fill up your
Wenn ich
early
ein
game slots
Control-Deck
with
spiele,
things
könnte
that
ich mir
are
fast
minions.
überlegen, so
And
eine
so
7-Mana-Karte in
it
der
kind
Hand
of
zu
plays into
behalten.
some of that style.
Das
And
Risiko
so
auch mal
what
einzugehen.
was the sort of overall thought process behind spellstones in general? Like, how did you get to
Ja, das ist jetzt
you
vielleicht mal
wanna
interessant
have
zu hören.
these cards that level up in your hand?
Yeah, so part of it was the treasure fantasy. We want to have cards that level up. Part of what's awesome about treasures, it makes you more powerful. If you play these fantasy role-playing games like World of Warcraft, it's leveling up, and that sense of progression is awesome. And we wanted to look at how we could do a quest type mechanic that was smaller. We did the quests in Angoro, and they were this huge deal. They were legendaries. The rewards were incredible, super powerful stuff. And so we wanted to do the sort of smaller version. They're a little bit easier to trigger, a lot easier to trigger. Play a weapon is way easier than, play a bunch of taunt minions. Right, exactly. But at the end, you didn't get something that completely overwhelmed your opponent. You did something very powerful that might win you the game, but it wasn't, now the game is over, I'm going to just let my win condition snowball from here. So we wanted to get something that's kind of in that middle space.
But still, like quests, they inform your deck building. You
For
think,
sure.
Okay, well, maybe if I'm going to be playing with this card in my deck, maybe I consider playing Forge of Souls to ensure that I draw more weapons, or just play more weapons in my deck.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Maybe if you're playing the Jasper Spellstone, you're going to play a little bit more armor gain. Maybe you'll add Branching Paths to your deck to get a couple of armor gain triggers.
That does that.
So that works together pretty nicely. And so they
Ja,
push
die
your
Karten,
deck
die man nicht kennt.
not in the sense of I'm going to build my whole deck around this card, but more in the sense of
Ja, stimmt.
this
Die
encourages me
Choose
to go in a particular
Twice-Karte, die
direction.
kann
That's
einem da
often
schon ordentlich
exactly the
weiterhelfen.
kind of
Bei den
design,
Spellstones.
that I
Beim
particularly
Druiden
enjoy.
jetzt.
One of my favorite cards in Hearthstone
Cool.
right now is Curator.
Sure,
'Cause
yeah.
It's a card that you're like, okay, well, can I fit a dragon in this deck? My answer is always yes.
Of course.
But it also encourages other people who otherwise might not put dragons in their deck to put dragons in their deck. So I think it's doing good work.
Right, exactly. It's encouraging dragons out there, but
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting figuring out how you're going
Right.
to take advantage of it.
It's like, okay, do I want to play a Kobolde Oracle in my deck
Right,
because
exactly.
I have a copy of the Curator? So cards that just give you a little bit of a handhold of like, hey, maybe you want to consider playing a little bit more of this to make me better, I think are really interesting, because they're not the super, okay, you build your entire deck this way, but they reward you for finding things like Cobalt Scalebane, for instance, was a card a lot of players slept on early in the recent metagame, but now we see a lot of it, especially in decks with the Curator.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a pretty interesting thing that Spellstones do. And they're also pretty interesting to play out in the individual games, because there's a question of how long do you want to save it? You've got your Spellstone, it's going to summon 2 5/5s, you don't have anything else you're doing.
Well, I could play this weapon and
yeah.
get another 5. And that's the sort of thing that, especially when I'm streaming, always it's like, ooh, but I could play 3 more spells before my Yogg.
Exactly.
I could play another weapon before my Spellstone.
And
it
so
could be even bigger.
And that's both fun to do and also pretty skill testing.
Right.
It's interesting, like when do you play your Spellstone at the medium level or at the low level instead of waiting all the way to the high level?
Right. Well, I'm definitely interested to see what the other Spellstones are, but we have, I believe, one more card
Okay, eine Karte
to
noch.
show today. So let's see it.
Oh, Jägerlegendär.
Legendary. Dun 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 dun.
Recruit.
Hunter Legendary.
Okay.
All right. Wait, Hunters? I thought the Hunter Legendary was Savannah Highmane. So,
This is another Hunter
okay,
Legendary.
it's another.
Well, and this helps out your High Mains.
It does. So
Cooler Bogen.
Katharina Whisperwisp.
Katharina Winterwisp.
All right, you know it. I don't. So, Battle Cry and Death Rattle. Recruit a Beast.
Okay.
Wow.
Also wenn du die spielst und noch eine Savannah Highmane dazu kriegst, dann ist das natürlich stark für 8 Mana. Ja, oder
That's a
sowas.
beast.
Average result, I think.
Yeah.
What did she say when she came into play?
Where's my pet?
The light has betrayed
Oh,
me.
that was a pretty good top deck.
Oof. Unlucky.
But sometimes lucky.
All right, all right. I think that it would have been better if she got King Crush first and attacked with it, then got the 9/9. But I suppose this will do.
Never lucky, I guess.
No.
Just 2 giant dinosaurs.
So this is really cool.
Okay.
Gefällt
mir die
I think
Karte.
that,
Finde
it's
ich cool.
interesting because it is a
Finde
card
ich irgendwie
that
interessant.
encourages Hunter specifically to
Nichts
try and play
Bahnbrechendes oder sowas,
Endgame
aber
Beast.
ich stell's mir...
It's also a card that it's a Death Rattle card. And there's
Yeah.
a lot
So
of
Mid-Range
Death Rattle cards.
Hunter,
We're actually
glaube ich,
talking,
kann man die sogar
before
spielen.
we started the stream here, about how one of my favorite decks to play right now is the Play Dead Hunter.
Vielleicht ein paar...
And this is a pretty powerful thing. It's like, oh, I'll Play Dead this. It's like, oh, I get a gigantic beast.
Right, you get a
potentially.
Savannah Highmane. Or...
Right. So what was
So ein
what
paar
sort of thought
Wildtiere
process
rauslassen
going on
im Early Game,
in
dafür ein paar
design?
stärkere
So
mit
yeah, we talked
reinnehmen
a
und
little
im
bit
Early
about
Game
Recruit before, and so
ein paar andere
Recruit is a mechanic
neutrale
that's not
Karten
in all of
vielleicht
the
nutzen.
classes,
Okay.
but a number of
Vielleicht
classes
ganz
just kind of
cool.
touch on it.
So ein
Hunter,
richtiges
for example, does it. This is the only Hunter
Beast
Recruit
Deck.
card, and they
Okay.
do Beast Recruiting, because that makes
Wäre
sense for
cool.
Hunter. And so we wanted
Damit würde
something
ich
that
gerne ein
played
bisschen
more in that space of, I
experimentieren
want to play a
tatsächlich.
controlling defensive Hunter deck that plays a lot of giant beasts. Playing
Coole Karten
giant
haben wir
beasts in your
gesehen
Hunter
heute.
deck is pretty cool. And
Nochmal
this
in
at least
Ruhe
gives people
angucken.
an opportunity to experiment with some of that stuff and try it out. That Play Dead Hunter's pretty cool. You've got the Carnivorous Cube to try out. Katharina's pretty awesome if you Carnivorous Cube.
Und natürlich, wenn ihr jetzt hier
Ja.
mein Live-React zuerst seht,
That's
guckt euch ruhig nochmal den richtigen Stream an
So is Highmane.
oder
So some of
hört
the cards
einfach
that
zu,
playing in that
während ihr was
deck,
anderes macht,
you might
falls ich euch jetzt darüber
well
gesprochen
with
habe, aber
Carnivorous
erzähl
Cube, Play Dead.
Live-React.
Yeah. So this is one of the interesting things we've seen. I think it's Abominable Bowman.
Yeah.
That's always a card that's so hard for me to pronounce. Abominable Bowman.
Abominable
Yep.
Bowman.
I'm not even gonna try.
Ja, aber an den habe ich hier auch
But
gedacht.
they're cards that kind of encourage a
So ein bisschen-
big hunter style of deck.
Genau.
Because you want to specifically play
Größere
larger
Wildtiere
beasts rather
ausspielen.
than necessarily just curving out with early
Vom
game
Frostthron,
beasts
der
overwhelming your opponent.
für 7 Mana.
Are
glaub ich.
there some more cards maybe for Hunter that allow them to get the time to go there in the set?
Yeah, there's some more cards that let Hunter play more defensively. So Wandering Monster
Okay.
was showed at BlizzCon.
Yeah.
And that's a very powerful secret that promotes sort of that I'm going to play defensively. If an enemy attacks my hero, then I'm going to summon one of these random minions to defend myself.
Yeah, patches. You come out there, you try to hit me in the face.
Right, sure.
Sorry, there's a fell guard.
Right, exactly. Like that's pretty powerful.
It is, yeah.
So that's one opportunity. There's some other cards in the set that allow hunters to have some more early game plays that play a little bit more defensively.
So how
Cool,
much
gefällt mir.
is that kind of thing on your mind, especially as a person on the initial design team, thinking about designing a new set? Because initial design does not do the final game balance.
No,
So
we are definitely not the balancing. We try to get things within 1 or 2 mana, maybe 3 mana.
the realm
fine.
of sanity.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't mess up playtest too much.
But you certainly are aware of the classes that tend to see the most play in the competitive environment,
Yeah, for sure.
on ladder, in tournaments. So Hunter, of course, is one of the classes that isn't as popular. Is that something that does inform your design process early on?
Yeah, for sure. So we definitely think about which classes are the more popular, the less popular, and make sure that some of them get tools in that direction. Initial design tends to work on a set early enough that we don't have a lot of insight into this is what the metagame's going to look like a year from now. It's pretty tough to know exactly what that's going to be. So we can't do that perfectly. And so the final design
Schon
team
heftig,
does
dass er
a lot of work towards the end of a set's life.
der
at
Peter
the end of the
hier
set's
schon
design
an
lifespan,
Karten quasi
to try and make
arbeitet,
sure,
die
the
nächstes
powerful
Jahr,
classes are
also in
getting,
einem Jahr
things
erscheinen.
that
Das ist
push in
schon
other
Wahnsinn,
directions, and the
wenn
weaker
man sich das
classes
vorstellt.
are getting interesting and powerful things. And so that's definitely something that we think about.
Natürlich nicht
In particular, we
Finaldesign,
try to
aber
make sure that
Ideen
classes
in
get
Karten
new things in
erstmal
each
bringt.
expansion. That there's,
Das ist
you know,
interessant.
sometimes there will be the Beast Hunter deck that's interesting, and other times we'll give them Death Rattle cards, or there's tools in different directions. Maybe Secret Hunter. We saw some Karazhan cards in that direction. And so we try to make sure that there's different things that are cool in each expansion. And we see that, you know, some more Silverhand Recruit cards in Paladin. We've seen a couple now. And so that's the kind of thing that we think about more in initial design is what are the class mechanics that are cool that we can play up here that we haven't done in a little while that are different.
Are there any particular ones that you feel like you guys have some cool stuff for people that we may not have seen yet, just that you can tease them what might be seen in the future?
Oh man, so Dragon Priest is pretty cool. Dustbreaker I think is an awesome card. There's some cool stuff in some different directions that Hunter can go too.
So of the stuff that we've seen so far, because we are sadly out of cards to show you today.
No.
That's the end, but there will be more coming in the very, very near future.
Ja,
Of the stuff that we have showed off so far, what's your favorite card?
Oh, that's easy. Feral Gibber by a mile.
Feral Gibberer.
There he
Diese
is.
komische,
Feral
ja,
Gibber,
guckt
he's
euch
just
diese Karte
adorable,
an.
right? Don't you want to, like, you know, camp out in a dungeon and wake up to 50 of these things swarming you?
Ja, das ist auf jeden Fall
No.
die Meme-Karte
No, I do not.
But you probably level up at the end of that
in
if you
diesem
survive.
Set.
There's a caveat there.
Yeah, well, you know. Let's see, what else? I really love Rin. I think Rin's fantastic, the Warlock Legendary.
Oh, that card is really neat.
It's just a good story. It's really
Destroy
fun, the idea that
the deck
you're doing
for your
this
opponent.
horrible ritual,
Super.
this like crazy thing, and at the end you get to destroy your opponent's deck.
It seems like it's a very difficult ritual to perform.
is,
but it definitely
That's a
seems
fun
cool.
line of text to
Yeah.
get to put on a card. I was very happy that got to actually ship. That's pretty cool to me. What else? Carnivorous Cube's awesome. I love that card.
That's probably my favorite card that we have seen so far is Carnivorous Cube.
That one's really
I
fun.
think that
Der Cube, das
Plated
ist die
Hunter,
Karte, wo
deck
du
is obviously a very interesting potential.
den spielst du aus, du musst eine Karte quasi töten und wenn er getötet wird, kommt die Karte zweimal
Trigger
wieder.
Death Rattles,
Also, ist schon krass.
attack a big minion.
Ein bisschen wie der Gruben- oder Grabenlauerer
Come back twice.
Yep.
mit zweimal der
It's pretty
Effekt.
awesome. The
Oder
gameplay with
zweimal
it is super
wiederkommen.
fun. There's various times where you're like,
Cool.
oh, Carnivorous Cube's the perfect card here, or it's not exactly perfect right now, but I'm going to do something cool with it eventually, or maybe I'll like play it and faceless it, and there's all sorts of interesting things you can do with it. You can use the Shaman Spellstone to get a whole board full of Carnivorous Cubes.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah, I like Marin a lot too. That story was in the set super early, where it's just
I actually blanked on it. I've been playing so much Marin.
Sure,
and
yeah.
I'm like, Marin, was this a card? I'm like, oh right, the treasure chest guy.
Yeah, the treasure chest guy is like, we're gonna have an adventure, and he goes
Marin
out there,
macht Spaß,
he
kann ich auf
makes
jeden
a
Fall
treasure
sagen. Mir
chest,
macht
and
es
then you
sehr
have to
viel
break it,
Spaß.
and
Gab schon sehr
That's a
lustige
fun
Spiele.
story, and I've really enjoyed it.
I actually with what's it, the crown? The
Yeah,
one that
Xerog's
gives you two
crown.
Legendaries. I actually got 2 Mare Noggenfoggers off that.
Oh, nice.
And it was just like arrows going everywhere
That's
on the
awesome.
screen. And then someone pointed out that Noggenfogger's first name is apparently also Marin.
Oh,
In the
I didn't
in
know
the-
that. That's
I guess
awesome.
it is. I don't know.
That's very cool. That's perfect. Yeah, he's super fun. I was really glad that he got to come out early. I think that's been it's fun when we can do that, right? And have a metagame that's around this guy that's just breaking treasure chests.
Yeah, I mean, it's the sort of thing that I don't think it's a terribly powerful competitive card. I don't
Sure.
expect to see this necessarily showing up, but it's a super fun card to play with. I've been playing it in basically every deck since it came out, even if it makes absolutely no sense.
Sure, and he just makes awesome stories in games, right? Like, oh yeah, this is the one, I got Toland's Goblet, and I drew Shadow Step. And now I've got 9 Shadow Steps in my hand, and who knows what I'm going to do with that.
Yeah, I actually filled my hand with Netherspite Historians once,
that sounds pretty
had
fun.
no dragon. But my
So
hand was full, so I
sad.
burned the next card. But then I got a lot of dragons off.
All right, that's good. Yeah, it just creates awesome stories every time. I really love that card.
Nee, ist wirklich
Do
eine
you have
coole
any
Karte. Macht mir auch
particular
Spaß, damit
stories
rum zu
around any of the cards
experimentieren
you
mit
saw
Marin.
today, as far as the design, like anything that was like really weird getting to the point that we were sort of finally at?
Oh man, we've talked about a bunch of like how cards ended up places. Branching paths evolved a lot as design went on, trying to figure out exactly how many effects and which effects they should be too. We try to make a treant on there. Gain a mana crystal was on there at some point. There's a bunch of different things that branching paths has done because there's so many different possibilities, and so that was pretty interesting. Playing Feral Gerber and filling up my board in hand, that was pretty fun. The first time you play a card, sometimes you don't really understand the right way to do it.
I kind of want to see the Feral Gibber in action again. Can we do that?
Sure, yeah.
Oh, no.
Possible? All right. For those of you who may have come in late and missed this guy, I mostly just want to hear him attack again.
Yeah, listen to him. And come into play, too. Oh, recording that one was so much fun. The voice actor had such a good time, and he just riffed on all these awesome sounds. Oh, man.
Oh Mann. Ja, da möchte ich
Ja,
auch
all of the
Voice
backup
Actor
takes for
sein in
this
dem
were also
Moment.
fantastic.
Hey, hier ist eine Karte. Du solltest vielleicht
Feral Gerber.
irgendwas Komisches
Near and dear to my
schreien.
heart.
Das wir dann auf.
Well, I think we are getting about done here. We've showed off all the cards. We've gotten a lot of good discussion in about the background here. So anything else you want to sort of share as final thoughts?
Noch haben doch
Not
einige
really,
Karten.
I just want to mention that the pre-order is live. You can get the Fantastic For the Horde card back. You can kind of see an indication of it on the screen, between our names. The expansion will release in December. We're super excited about that. There's a bunch of reveals coming up the next couple weeks. There's an awesome calendar that the community teams put up on our website. I'm really excited about. And maybe even more importantly, Brian's going to continue streaming right after this, so stay tuned. He's going to make all kinds of awesome decks, and I'm excited for it.
I will probably be playing a little bit more with Marin.
Oh, fantastic.
Getting some treasure.
Get some
Gotta
awesome
push it.
treasure.
I'm excited. Well, anyway, thank you very much, Peter.
Yeah, thank
for,
you so much for joining
talking
us.
today.
Alles
I
klar.
am super excited for
Das
Kobolde
war der Stream.
Katakomben. You said it comes out next month,
Yes,
correct?
it'll come out in December.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Like Peter said, if you want to hang out and watch my stream after this, don't go anywhere. I'll be hosting the channel right here.
Okay. Sehr cooler Stream. Paar interessante neue Karten. Muss man sich nochmal in Ruhe angucken. Und wie gesagt, ich werde dann nochmal drüber diskutieren, sie nochmal ein bisschen bewerten. Wann genau werdet ihr dann sehen. Wann ich das mache, weiß ich noch nicht genau. Vielleicht erst, wenn alle revealed wurden. Denn jetzt wird es schnell gehen. Denn ab morgen sehen wir wirklich jeden Tag bestimmt 3, 4 neue Karten. Da haben sie es mittlerweile so gemacht, dass man jetzt auch Zeiten hat und beziehungsweise welche Community-Seite uns eine neue Karte verrät. Also da gibt es jetzt wirklich einen richtigen Zeitplan. Könnt ihr mal auf eurer Hearthstone-Seite, auf der ihr so unterwegs seid, nachschauen. Das wurde auch offiziell gepostet. Also da gibt es jetzt wirklich einen richtigen Zeitplan. Können wir mal schauen, was da die nächsten Tage uns so alles erwartet an Karten. Ich bin auf jeden Fall, also die größte Überraschung in diesem Stream war jetzt für mich, Schurken kriegen Geheimnisse. Das ist natürlich nochmal was ganz Neues, finde ich. Es hat mich jetzt schon überrascht. Die coolste Karte, auch wenn es jetzt die letzte war, aber die Karte, die mir jetzt so am besten gefallen hat, vom Artwork her, aber auch, weil ich unbedingt so einen Midrange-Jäger mal wieder spielen möchte, das habe ich schon lange nicht mehr gemacht. Und da passt die ganz gut rein, ist die Katharina Winter Wisp, glaube ich. Also die wir gerade am Ende gesehen haben, die fand ich cool. Und der Drache war auch sehr, sehr spannend. Control, Priester, Drache. Sehr, sehr cool. Bin gespannt, was es da noch so gibt. Ich bin auch gespannt, was die Karten, die ich jetzt noch nicht für so gut halte, zum Beispiel die Schamanen-legendäre Waffe, ob die vielleicht doch ein bisschen überraschend wird und dann vielleicht doch gar nicht so verkehrt ist, obwohl sie 8 Mana kostet. Also viele Sachen, die uns da noch erwarten. Einige legendäre Waffen haben wir, glaube ich, noch nicht gesehen. Ich bin gespannt, was sie noch weitermachen mit den Spellstones. Da habe ich nicht mit gerechnet, dass es so viele gibt, sprich für jede Klasse ein. Bin ich sehr gespannt, was es da noch geben wird. Und vor allem auch diese Unidentified-Mechanik, wo man quasi erst weiß, was die Karte macht, wenn man sie zieht im Spiel aus einem Pool von 4, 5 Effekten. Da bin ich auch gespannt, was das vielleicht gibt. Hatte ich ja gerade die Vermutung, dass das vielleicht beim Schurken das Geheimnis, ein unidentifiziertes Geheimnis oder so werden könnte. Keine Ahnung. Wahrscheinlich eher nicht, so wie wir das jetzt gerade gesehen haben. Aber ja, cool, ich freue mich. Wie gesagt, wenn es euch gefallen hat, wie wir uns das hier gerade angeguckt haben und wenn ihr sehen wollt, wie ich über die Karten dann quassel, innerhalb der nächsten 2 Wochen wahrscheinlich. Ja, lasst gerne ein Abo da, ansonsten